Oh, hey there my fellow bounty hunters, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of RobaFett, and wow, I gotta say, I've just been out of it ever since the Nintendo Switch has come out. I've just been playing it, collecting my thoughts. I should have a video up either tomorrow or the day after that, telling you guys about the Switch and what I think about it, what I think about Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, 1-2 Switch, all that good stuff is coming to you very soon, I promise. And I also apologize, this Monday movie review is going to be released on Tuesday. I know that doesn't make sense. It's like Taco Tuesdays on Wednesday almost. That's just the way it went this week. I really just wanted to play Zelda a lot. And I had to pause, to run errands and of course go to work and stuff like that. This review is a little late. But anyway guys, before we get into the review today, I just want to remind you that if you are new around here, don't forget to blast that subscribe button. And as always, if you like today's video, well, you know what you can do. You can hit that like button. That's pretty much what you do when you like a video. And if you want to get notifications every time I upload, all you got to do is ring that bell down there, and you will get notified every time I upload a video. Alright guys, so Logan, I went and saw it this past weekend. It is directed by James Mangold. It has Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart in it, reprising their roles as Wolverine and Professor X. I know there's a lot of people that probably have not seen Wolverine yet, so I'm going to keep this spoiler free today, and I'm just going to get straight into it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. First I'll just give a little synopsis. Basically, Wolverine, he is aging, he's older in this movie. Mutants aren't really around anymore. Pretty much him and Professor X and Caliban are the only mutants left. The responsibility kind of gets thrust on Wolverine early on in this movie to take this little girl somewhere, and of course there's the bad guys that don't want her to get where she's going, and they try to stop them. And that's as much as I'm going to tell you about the plot of the movie. So let's get into the movie. What worked? Well, I gotta say, this movie is brutal. If you, like me, have been wanting a movie where Wolverine uses his claws, I've wanted this ever since the 90s television show where he doesn't use them for pretty much anything. I even remember Spider-Man and his amazing friends, he used them to skewer fruit. Like, you know what those claws are for. Yeah, you know. Well, you're gonna get to see it. I mean, I think the closest we've gotten before this was that rated M Wolverine game that came out after the Wolverine Origins movie, which is probably the only good thing that came out of that movie. And it's funny, I was talking to somebody earlier this week, you know who you are, and they were saying they remember reading, this like before the internet became big, they remember reading in a magazine the first X-Men movie. It was like, will Wolverine use his claws? Will he kill with his claws? Like asking. This movie goes way beyond that, and I love it. I loved seeing those action sequences with Wolverine. Amazing. I didn't really like The Wolverine. I'll probably do a review on that in the future, so I was kind of worried about James Mangold coming back for this movie. One thing I really do like that he does in this movie is he sets this almost up like a Western. It is definitely very reminiscent of a Western. In fact, there's a point in the movie when they're watching the Western Shane, which is a very good Western. If you haven't seen it yet, be sure to go watch that. I feel like, especially at certain points, this movie has a lot of depth. A lot of character building, which I always like. It makes you feel for certain characters, and I really, really do admire that in a movie. I always love when a movie tries to make you care, takes the time. Not everything's just explosions. This movie is definitely a drama at heart. And this movie's almost sets up like a Coen Brothers realisticness, What would happen if Wolverine was real, if Professor X was real, they got this old, and the events in this movie happened. And I do respect that approach, so I am going to say that is a good thing. I feel like if you look at this, if you just pay attention to this movie, cut out all the other movies, maybe even look at this movie as a what-if scenario. It is Hugh Jackman and probably, I would say, Patrick Stewart's last outing as these characters. I think you can really see that as a positive thing. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Hugh Jackman wins an Oscar. This was his last outing with us as Wolverine. For what he did amazing. He did an amazing job. I really did respect him, especially just think about, he has had the longest superhero role of all time. Yeah, he's been in pretty much every X-Men movie, all the way back to like 2001. And the original X-Men, if you think about it, was pretty much the first superhero franchise that brought it to where it is today. And if you think about that all the way back up to this movie, that is something that is just really amazing. And I gotta say, on those levels, I really did enjoy Wolverine. So what was bad? What didn't work in Wolverine? Well, the first thing I'm gonna say is this movie, it's almost dramatic to a fault. You know, it wants to be a film really bad. It wants to be, you know, I think there's a difference between just like movies and films, you know what I mean? Something that's just No Country for Old Men, Citizen Kane, stuff like that, okay? This movie really wants to do that, and I think it just lacks in certain areas to do that. You know, it has Oscar clips in it, you know what I mean? It has like, you know, care about this character moments in it that are pretty obvious, which can be sort of insulting to your audience. They make the decision to have the comic books actually exist in this movie. Apparently, from what the X-Men have done in the other movies, this has caused the comic books to exist. A lot of people said, oh, I love this. I think this is an awesome thing. I thought it was both, okay? Like, the comics existing was interesting because in this movie, like I said, they're taking a realistic approach. So, from their realistic point of view, looking at the comic books, Wolverine feels very negatively about them. He's like, listen, out of all the stuff that happens in those comic books, maybe like a fraction of it happened. Most of that stuff's bullcrap. Don't buy into it. It's just comic books. This isn't real. And if you think about that with reality, it's very true. However, I also looked at it this way. I kind of looked at it as Fox's view on the comic books, because if you think about it, we have never really gotten a true X-Men movie from Fox. They've all been these Hollywood movies that they make that don't stay true to their source material at all. In fact, a lot of them piss on the source material. I thought that was very interesting for them to bring up in this movie. I was like, aside from Deadpool, I feel like all the other movies have kind of straight, and that's why Deadpool I think was so successful, is it stayed true to its source material. I think that's why the Avengers movies, Iron Man, Captain America, all those movies are so successful, because they are staying true to their source material, whereas movies like the last two Spider-Mans that came out, Spider-Man 3, a lot of these X-Men movies, they don't stay true to their source material. And at the end of the day, it hurts them a lot. As far as the other X-Men movies, like I said, when you're watching this movie, you can do it two ways. You can either think about this as a collaboration with the other movies, like how does this fit in with the other movies? Or you can look at it as its own film. If you do that, you're going to enjoy it a lot more, because if you try to think about this connected to the other movies, it will make your brain want to explode, because nothing ever makes sense. Something happens to Wolverine's claws in The Wolverine, okay? Not this movie, the Wolverine. You know, if you've seen it, I don't want to spoil anything, you know something happens to his claws, and then in the next movie, his claws are fine. Days of Future Past, his claws are fine. So that movie really had nothing to do with anything. Coming back over to this movie almost kind of takes everything that's ever happened in any X-Men movie and kind of just dumps on it a little bit, and kind of just says, it really doesn't matter. It almost ends the X-Men cinematic universe. Like, it almost, and you'll see what I mean when you watch it, it pretty much ends the X-Men cinematic universe. And while I really do want to see it end, because I'm so tired of it, especially after Apocalypse, I want Fox to finally just make up with Disney and Sony and Marvel and throw it at them, get it involved in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as soon as possible. I never think it's a good decision to just do what they did. Like we said, this is an R-rated movie. I enjoy a lot of aspects of it. I understand when profanity is used in a way to where it's effective. I get that. I also see when it's ineffective and when it's almost thrown in to get people go, ooh, oh, you know, like this movie tries to have a certain Deadpool factor where they make certain characters say certain things, and you're just like, especially it's overused almost like immediately in the movie. It's overused to the point where, like, in the movie, people were like, they laughed at the first couple, and then it's just kind of like, oh, okay, yep, oh, they made another one. Oh, they said something else dirty. Okay, cool. Like, it lost its effect after a while, you know? Like, there are movies that have those moments that are so much more special because they use them one time. But with the amount of times this movie used it, it took away. The relationship and the way it forms between Wolverine and this little girl is almost too fast, and they could have done it so much better, and it would have made so much more sense. Alright guys, that's the bad, let's get to the ugly. The problem that Wolverine is struggling with this in his movie, you can tell in the trailers, he's not healing as well anymore and stuff. The reasoning behind it, I thought was stupid. Like, I don't know if it's straight from the comics or not, because I'm not all that well versed in Old Man Wolverine. So you guys can let me know down in the comment box below. Whether it's in the comics or not, I'm still going to think it's dumb. I just think it's dumb. And you'll see when you watch the movie, you can judge for yourself whether you think it's good or not. There's a point in this movie where they almost stop off for a little while and stay with a family. I kind of felt it was really out of place, and also, they had a really unique opportunity in this movie to add the character Daken, because, I mean, and we know X-Men is notorious for changing the storylines behind characters to make them fit into movies, okay? And they totally could have done it. I would have been fine with it. It would have just been awesome to have Daken in the movie. They could have made up whatever story they wanted about it. There's no way Daken's going to show up in another X-Men movie, more than likely. So this was the time to use him. Instead, they focus on this other character that they just make up for the movie, and it's just really stupid. It's just really dumb. And the stuff he gets to do in this movie is like a slap in the face, I think, to X-Men fans. And here's the last ugly, guys. I'm just, like I said before, I'm just tired of watching these X-Men movies. I'm tired of them, just like the Transformers movies almost. You know, X-Men is awesome. They are some of my favorite superheroes. I just loved watching the cartoon. I loved reading the comic books when I was growing up. They just have so many cool stories, and these movies just come in and they kind of do their own thing, and they make up their own stuff. And if you really think about it, all these movies are almost all about Wolverine. If you think about it, okay? Maybe Apocalypse is the only one, but they even shoehorned him in there. Think about it. X-Men 1, he's introduced as pretty much the center character of that movie, okay? X-Men 2, we're discovering Wolverine's past. X-Men 3, he has a lot of decisions to make about what he's going to do about Jean Grey. Wolverine Origins. Well, I wonder if that's about Wolverine. The Wolverine. Is that about Wolverine? Days of Future Past. He is the pivotal character in that movie. I don't care what you say. And of course, this movie. That's a lot of movies about one character in a story that's about a lot of characters and how they interact with each other. And you can't tell me that they can't focus on more than one character in a movie. I've seen them do it in other movies. And if they have to split them up in separate movies like they did with the Avengers, I am fine with that. But I want to see, the reason the X-Men are so interesting is because they are a family. And it's very interesting to see how they interact in their own different personalities. When you have characters like Cyclops and Gambit and Beast and Wolverine and Jean Grey and Storm, you know, all these characters coming together. And if they kept it true to their source material, there's no way the Avengers should ever be cooler than the X-Men, in my opinion. And one last thing I gotta say, there is something that they say that Professor X did in this movie. They're very vague about what happened, but that he did something bad. It kind of just ruined, it just ruined so many things for me just to even think about that happening. And that's what I will leave at that. But anyway, guys, overall, I was really split about Logan. I enjoyed it on one half of the spectrum. I really enjoyed a lot of the stuff they were trying to do with it. On the other hand, I am just fed up with watching all the X-Men movies that have come out. I want to see a true X-Men movie. And honestly, I feel like the longer they wait, the more time they're wasting. The longer they wait, the less likely we'll see an X-Men movie that has also Robert Downey Jr. in it portraying Iron Man and Chris Evans portraying Captain America, and all those actors are eventually going to have to retire, just like Hugh Jackman. And wouldn't it have been nice to see Hugh Jackman on the same screen as them? It would have been awesome. And my score for Logan is going to be a 7 out of 10. I almost wanted it to be an 8 out of 10, but there's just a lot of things in this movie I think that held it back. And I find it interesting that Rotten Tomatoes has given it a 100%, and you have to see that on the commercial. I know a lot of movie reviewers have given this almost immaculate reviews, And I think that it's very important to see the problems and also acknowledge, where is this going? Where is this taking the X-Men in the future? I think these are all very important questions, especially now that we will no longer have Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. What does that mean for the X-Men franchise? Some important things to think about, guys. I want to know what you think, though, down in the comment box below. Anything and everything. Let me know down there. And like I said, if you're new around here, if you haven't already, don't forget to blast that subscribe button. And if you like today's video, well, you know what you can do. You can hit that like button. That's pretty much what you do when you like a video. If you want to be notified every time I upload, just ring that bell down there and you'll get notifications every time. And guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you guys. You guys are the reason that I do this. Every single one of you that watches, especially if you've gotten to this point in the video and you watched the whole thing, thank you so much. And as always, stay awesome, stay beautiful, keep those Punisher hats on, and I'll see you later.